Good morning, dear participants. I would like to also welcome you to second day of the migration conference. And I would like to particularly thank you for your interest to join us for this focus session where we will be discussing migration situation in Western Balkans. Particularly in this session, we will be providing information to you about migration situation in Western Balkan countries, but also we will get a good insight from the authorities in relation to their expectations from EU and other countries for potential support for the migration management in the region, as well as their perspectives to enhance their cooperation within Western Balkans, and also, of course, extending cooperation with country of transit, as well as country of origins. Our aim is to, of course, contribute discussions to reach a kind of complementary migration management throughout the Eastern Mediterranean route. Dear colleagues, my name is Tamer. I am ICMPD's regional coordinator responsible to coordinate work of ICMPD in Turkey and Western Balkans. And I am joining you from Ankara, from my office. It's a pleasure to be part of the Vienna Migration Conference. So why we wanted to also cover Western Balkans in the focus sessions. You all know Western Balkan countries are mostly affected from the migration pressure, starting from 2015 so-called migration crisis. But traditionally, Western Balkan countries have been a transit country for the migration of the third country nationals. Of course, immigration reality from Western Balkans is also another important issue. But today, in this session, we'll be mainly focusing on what are the arising needs of the Western Balkan countries and what type of need they have when it comes to further cooperation with EU countries, and what are their perspectives, once again, to extend their cooperation with country of origins and transit. Please kindly also join us from social media, through social media accounts. Please follow up our discussions to contribute and to raise also your inputs for the discussions. We will be conducting the sessions in a different modality due to the technical reasons. Today, we will be starting with a session where we will be elaborating the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will be introducing you in a minute our distinguished representative from Bosnia and Herzegovina, with whom I had a pre-recorded session to discuss the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, particularly their needs in these days, and also their vision, how they want to extend cooperation with other countries. Later on, we will be also organizing other sessions in the course of the MC, potentially, or through other events, also focusing on other Western Balkan countries. And all those sessions will be done in a complementary manner with a view to give you a good insight on what is the situation in the region, and also give some ideas to all of us how we can support countries in the region and how we can extend cooperation. Before I invite you to start watching the pre-recorded interview, I would like to underline one important fact that all Western Balkan countries are doing their best to manage the situation in the region. But of course, because of also pandemic, the needs of the countries as well as needs of migrants and refugees who are stranded in the region are increasing. And the situation is quite challenging. Therefore, it requires a good understanding of the situation in the region, rather than just expecting from Western Balkan countries to do their work. The nature of migration remains safe. Migrants and refugees are considering the region as a transit region rather than as a destination region. Therefore, we have to work all together to find a way to support those countries. Before I start the session, I would like to also introduce our guest, distinguished guest from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Marijan Baotić, who's the Assistant Minister responsible for the asylum sector at the Ministry of Security. I had a pleasure to have a good interview with him to understand the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now I would like to invite all of you to watch and listen to this video, and I will be reconnected after the video to have a couple of conclusion remarks. Thank you once again for joining us. Mr. Baotić, I would like to start the conversation through asking one general question to you. As we all know, migration crisis And the COVID pandemic have affected Western Balkans drastically. And as a result of that, migration pressure over the authorities in the region have, of course, increased. And of course, Bosnia and Herzegovina have been one of the countries which has been affected mostly. As a result of that, the number of migrants and refugees staying in Bosnia and Herzegovina have gradually increased. I would like to invite you to share your views about the migration situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the challenges that you are facing.
First of all, I'd like to greet Mr. Tamer and all the others being part of the conference.
I zahvalio ICMPD-u što imamo mogućnost iz Bosne i Hercegovine da govorimo o trenutnoj situaciji migrantske krize koja je Balkana nego i evropske.
Seem to be one of the burning issues, not only the Western Balkans, but the EU itself.
Naravno da COVID je uvjetovao.
Of course, the COVID caused many issues.
U Bosni i Hercegovini situacija sa ilegalnim nije zadovoljavajuća.
The situation with illegal migrants is not satisfactory.
Broj ilegalnih migranata koji su od januara 20. godine do danas ušli.
The number of illegal migrants who entered the country from the January 2020 until today,
koji su evidentirane od strane službe za poslove sa strancima je oko 15.000.
And were registered as such by our Service for Foreign Affairs amounts to approximately 15,000.
Što je u poređenju sa prethodnom godinom u istom periodu manji za 45%.
Even though this number is lesser by 45% than it was the case in the same period in 2019.
Ali za Bosnu i Hercegovinu problem veći je što nije taj protok migranata prema zemljama zapadne Evrope kao u 2019.
However, the problem for the Bosnia and Herzegovina is that the flows of such migrants is not the same as it was back in 2019.
Nego su ti ilegalni migranti trenutno prisutni u Bosni i Hercegovini.
However, current situation is that these illegal migrants are present in the country.
I kapaciteti Bosne i Hercegovine za smještaj ilegalnih migranata
and the capacities of Bosnia and Herzegovina to accommodate such migrants in the reception centers
nisu u mogućnosti da
are not adequate
ilegalne migrante
for their accommodation.
Naravno da imamo i sivu zonu.
We also have this so-called gray zone.
Koji nisu evidentirani od strane nadležnih organa.
Here I talk about the migrants not being registered by the authorities.
I oni nam predstavljaju još veći, naravno, problem.
Which pose even a bigger problem for us.
Bosna i Hercegovina ima kapacitet za smještaj 7.000 migranata.
Bosnia and Herzegovina has capacity for accommodation of 7,000 migrants.
A trenutne procjene govore da na terenu imamo negdje blizu 11.000 migranata.
However, our current information rise or speak about numbers rising. Oprostite, gospodine Baotić, za trenutak se prekinem koliko hiljada migranata?
Oko 11.000 migranata.
Talk about approximately 11,000 migrants.
Naravno da su problemi višestruki.
The numbers are numerous.
Pitanje organizacija smještaja.
When it comes to the organization of the accommodation, food,
pružanja zdravstvene,
and provision of health care.
jer sve UN-ove organizacije i druge međunarodne organizacije
As all the UN and the other international organizations,
od IOM-a, UNHCR-a
starting from the IOM, UNHCR,
i Danskog izbjegličkog savjeta,
and as well as the Danish Refugee Council,
su naravno financijski u vrlo nepovoljnoj situaciji.
are also found in a financially unfavored situation.
Konstantan je problem da su svi legalni migranti bez dokumenata.
We have this constant problem that our illegal migrants do not have IDs.
I da naravno prihvatamo samo njihovu izjavu.
And that we only get their statements on their identity.
O imenu, prezimenu i o zemlji porijekla.
And they say on their own their name, last name, country of origin as well.
I da smo u slučajima koje smo probali da dovedemo do kraja imali velike probleme.
And we had huge problems in these cases that we really wanted to bring to its very end.
Jer te osobe naravno ne prolaze kroz njihove baze.
Because it turned out that a person that they claimed to be were not found in any of the databases of the countries they claimed they are from.
Tako da i sporazume koje imamo sa nekim državama o readmisiji ne možemo
Therefore, even though we
primijeniti.
do have certain readmission agreements with certain countries, we cannot practically implement them.
A naravno tamo gdje i nemamo vrlo teško je zaključiti
And for those countries that we haven't signed a readmission agreement yet, it gets really difficult to initiate and complete the procedure.
Mislim da smo napravili veliki korak
I
prije
think, however,
7 dana.
that we did manage to make one huge step ahead forward.
Ministar sigurnosti je bio u posjeti u Pakistanu.
Our Minister of Security visited Pakistan, official visit
I tamo je
Pakistan.
potpisan i sporazum o readmisiji i protokol o njegovoj realizaciji.
And on the occasion, they signed both the readmission agreement as well as its protocol on practical implementation of that agreement.
To druge zemlje, naravno, Zapadnog Balkana nisu radile, a i mnoge...
The other countries of the Western Balkans didn't manage to do so, and this also applies for some other EU countries.
Još ću samo kratko na ovo prvo pitanje dati.
And just add shortly on this first question of yours.
Da je i nadalje prisutno da sva ta lica koja se evidentiraju iskazuju namjeru za međunarodnom zaštitom.
We still have this trend that all the illegal migrants being registered in the country express their intention to seek asylum.
Ali stvarno podnošenje zahtjeva je...
However, actual application for the asylum turns to be in very small numbers.
U ovoj godini do sad su 221 osoba podnijele zahtjev za azil.
In this year, only 221 person applied for asylum.
A i sa onima koji su podnijeli zahtjev za azil nismo mogli završiti postupak do kraja jer su...
However, even this small number of applicants could not be, we could not conduct entire asylum procedure because
od momenta naravno podnošenja zahtjeva do momenta intervjua već napuštali prijavljenu mjestu boravka.
It turned out that from the moment of their application for asylum until the moment they were invited for an interview, it turned out that these persons already had left the address they claim to be on, living on.
Zaključujem da je znači i nadalje prisutna želja svih ilegalnih migranata da dođu u neku od zemalja Zapadne Evrope.
To conclude, I'm positively sure that all migrants found in Bosnia and Herzegovina aim to finally reach, not to stay in the country, but to reach some of the EU countries.
Mr. Baotić, I would like to thank you for sharing this overall information, which fully underline the challenge that you are facing. And of course, it's also clear that to have a sustainable migration management in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a need for further human resources, equipment, and financial means. And of course, sustainable migration management in the region requires also cooperation with EU countries as well as other countries. So in this regard, I would like to also consult you what type of support you would like to desire to have from EU and other countries to support your migration management.
Sami ste rekli da naravno veliki su izazovi, velike su potrebe kako u finansijskim, tako i u tehničkim.
As you already stated, we have these huge needs for both financial and technical assistance.
I dosadašnja sredstva koja su dolazila iz fondova Europske unije i kreirala se naravno na rješavanje migrantske krize.
The funds we received from the EU up to now that were allocated to certain funds for the purpose of settling the migration crisis.
Sam rekao u prvom dijelu već postaju nedostatna, a do kraja godine imamo još mjesec i po dana.
Seem to be already scarce, and we have to be aware that we have almost 2 months until the New Year's Eve.
Naravno,
so we are lacking funds.
Hercegovina ne preferira da bude ta kojoj će se direktno dostavljati ta pomoć.
So just to make clear, we are not urging to be the final address of BIH authorities, do not require to be the final address of the provision of funds.
Neka ona i nadalje bude preko UN-ove organizacija.
It can still be sent via the other UN and international organizations.
Ali mora biti brža, što bi ja rekao, mora biti dan na dan.
However, it has to be more quick. It has to be provided, so to say, on a daily basis.
Mi naravno kroz IPA programe, kroz specijalne mjere smo dobili mogućnost da možemo iskazati svoje potrebe.
We were provided with possibility to express our needs, urgent needs through the IPA and its special means program.
Ali to je procedura koja će trajati, koja znači neće u datom trenutku moći odgovoriti problemima sa kojima se srećemo.
However, IPA requires rather lengthy procedure, and it is not until we get the funds. These funds cannot respond to the needs as swiftly as it should.
Znači, nećemo moći odgovoriti na izazove ni smještajnih kapaciteta, niti zdravstvenih kapaciteta.
We therefore could not be in position to respond to the needs relating to the accommodation, to food, health.
A da, naravno, ne govorimo o unutarnjim problemima oko devastacije i uništavanja privatne imovine, pogotovo u Unsko-Sanskom kantonu od strane ilegalnih migranata.
And not to mention an additional very serious problem of the serious crimes conducted by the migrants and, burglaries and destruction of private property.
A isto tako i sve veći broj počinjenja teških krivičnih dijela.
As well as the increasing number of severe crimes.
I ne možemo privesti licu pravde počinioce zato što ne znamo ko su ni trenutno gdje su.
However, we cannot bring such perpetrators before the face of justice, as we said, because we have no idea who these migrants are and where they are.
A naravno, veliki uskličnik je COVID.
And additionally, we have this huge issue called COVID.
Jer niti znamo kako se COVID prenosi, ni koga prenosi, ni kako da ga na kraju krajeva eliminišemo.
Because we do not how this COVID is transmitted, who is transmitting it, and ultimately how to deal with this illness, how to treat it adequately.
Baotić, I would like to thank you once again for your very precise elaborations and also sharing your expectations from the EU and other countries to support migration management in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As we have seen in recent years, the migration trends are also changing, and the needs are also, of course, in relation to that also there are new needs are arising.
Kao što ste vi znate, gospodine Baotiću, zadnjih godina se i trendovi migracijski mijenjaju.
And in your intervention, you gave a couple of good examples which requires more extensive cooperation with EU and country of origins beyond only focusing on financial support.
I u svom ranjem izlaganju ste spomenuli i tu saradnju koja nije samo sa EU nego i sa zemljama porijekla i tu praktičnu njihovu realizaciju.
My final consultation will be to you. In which extent, in your view, the cooperation with EU and country of origins should be extended to cover the new needs that you are facing, both on scope of cooperation and manner of cooperation?
Molim vas, i moje zadnje pitanje gdje se konsultujemo s vama odnosi se na oblasti u kojoj smatrate da bi pomoć Evropske unije i drugih zemalja mogla vam biti od pomoći. Znači, zadnjih pitanja.
Naravno, dosta puta smo mi isticali da se problemi trebaju rješavati u zemljama porijekla.
We've expressed on so many different occasions that the real problem should be settled back in the countries of origin.
Međutim, ja ću ipak dati malu jednu dozu kritike da četvrta industrijska revolucija je uvjetovala migracije ka zemljama Evropske unije.
I'll have to criticize a bit now and say that the fourth industrial revolution was actually the cause of the migrations towards the Western countries.
Jer ono što su kompanije zapadnih zemalja imale u zemljama Bliskog i Dalekog istoka je prestala ta koncesija i naravno se to moralo vratiti u zemlje Europske unije.
Because, initially the Western European countries and their companies usually had concessions on, so to say, Middle East. However, once this concession ceased to exist, they had to return their companies back into their mother countries in the Western Europe.
Nama ostaje da, naravno, kao zemlje Zapadnog Balkana međusobno sarađujemo kao i što sarađujemo do sad.
On the perspective of the Western Balkans and its country, we will have to and we will continue to cooperate with each other.
Da tražimo što aktivnije prisustvo evropskih institucija na granicama zemalja Evropske unije, a to su Grčka, Bugarska, Rumunija.
To kindly ask for very active participation of international organizations and agencies at the borders of it being Greece, Romania, Bulgaria.
Naravno, preko tih zemalja se migranti kreću, dolaze u zemlje Zapadnog Balkana i nastoje ići.
As these are the countries that the migrants usually transpass to reach the Western Balkans. Forward, of course.
I mislim da bez obzira što smo mi svi prihvatili globalne paktove o migracijama i o azilu,
regardless of the fact that we globally accepted these treaties on migration and asylum and pacts,
da će trebati dosta još vremena da to zaživi na onaj način kako je to tim dokumentima predviđeno.
That it would take a lot of time for these documents come into the practical implementation.
Završio bi da poslije svake kiše sunce izađe.
I would like to finalize my statement by saying that every rainy period is followed by a sunny day.
Da će naravno po prestanku COVID-a ponovo se svi građani država Zapadnog Balkana vratiti normalnim redovnim aktivnostima.
Once this COVID pandemic is over, the regular citizens of the Western Balkans will come back to their regular daily obligations and tasks.
Da ćemo prepoznati svi mi da među tim migrantima naravno postoje i osobe koje mogu biti integrirane u društvo.
And that we will see that among these numerous migrants, there are plenty of persons who can easily be integrated within our societies.
I da počnemo mijenjati sliku od negativne ka pozitivnoj, da i migracije mogu biti pozitivne.
And to finally start changing this negative image of migrations and migrants as such as something that really can be positive for all of us.
Ali na rješavanju tog pitanja uistinu treba široka akcija svih.
However, to settle this issue requires a very active engagement of all of us.
Znači, nije samo represija rješenje, nego i preventiva.
It is to settle this issue, we should not talk only about the repression, but of prevention as well.
Mr. Baotić, I would like to thank you for the information that you have provided. Thanks to your we have received information about migration situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the challenges that you are facing, as well as your expectations from EU and other countries to support you, and also your vision how to extend cooperation with country of origins. With this, I would like to conclude the session, also thanking the participants for being with us, and I would like to invite all of you to follow up to join us in other sessions of Vienna Migration Conference. Thank you. So, dear participants, I hope you enjoyed this good session, a pre-recorded session, and we aim to provide a good information about Bosnia and Herzegovina. And of course, I have also a chance to listen again, and I also like all the inputs given by Mr. Baotić. Once again, I would like to thank him for being available in this session. And we would like to also apologize for the technical limitations that maybe you have observed in the video, because we had to do in a kind of way to have a Bosnian to English translation. Therefore, there were some breaks in my interventions. We hope to have your understanding. It's difficult to summarize all the inputs of Mr. Baotić, but clearly he underlined the fact that the migration situation, irregular migration situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina is not good. There are more irregular migrants in Bosnia and Herzegovina that can be accommodated in the centers. They have capacity around 7,000, but there are more than 11,000 irregular migrants in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There are even some unregistered irregular migrants in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so-called in the gray zone. Of course, this is bringing challenges for them and then increasing their needs when it comes to financial support as well as other support. And there was a clear recommendation from Mr. Baotić, thinking how to speed up assistance to Bosnia and Herzegovina, not necessarily directly to the institutions, but through international organizations and NGOs operating in the country, who are also facing some challenges, but will be ready to support authorities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So when it comes to operational issues, the one important element that he mentioned, the fact that identification of the nationality of the irregular migrants are remaining as a challenge, which is making the return issues quite difficult because of also lack of readmission agreements between Bosnia and Herzegovina and also country of origins. They have some also legal limitations. Although they have progressed a readmission agreement with Pakistan recently, but the overall challenge remains the same. When it comes to nature of migration, the emphasis was that there are asylum applications, but applicants are not staying in the region. They are looking for opportunity to reach main EU countries as their final destination rather than considering Western Balkans as a destination region. Considering the nature of migration, number of migrants stranded in the region, as well as implication of COVID, the needs are arising. Therefore, there was a clear invitation to work with Bosnian authorities to support migration management in general. When it comes to the more concrete aspects of cooperation, return, as well as reintegration of the returned irregular migrants have been mentioned as one of the key issues, as well as inviting all parties to apply international obligations to be able to manage migration better. He made a good reference, after all rainy days, sunny days will come. We are all hoping to have those days, and also with a good understanding of the also good sides of migration throughout the region. With this, I would like to also close this live session. Once again, I would like to we'll be also organizing other sessions with the Balkan countries to understand also their situation, and all these sessions will be complementing each other. And hopefully we will have a better understanding of the situation in the region. So with this closing, I would like to invite you to remain connected for our next session, which will start at 11 o'clock in Vienna time, and we will be discussing role of cities in managing migration. Once again, thank you for having interest to join us, and I hope you found this also inputs very useful for your considerations. Thank you.